City Council meeting. We'll have the invocation Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May we pray? Our Father in heaven, we give thanks for your rich blessing on us as individuals, as family, and as a city. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as we meet here tonight to conduct the business of the city. Bless our soldiers who are in harm's way defending our freedoms on foreign soil, as well as our police officers and our firefighters here at home. Watch over them and keep them safe. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To begin the meeting tonight, we'll have a proclamation of Public Works Week, and I'll ask David Fain to meet me. This is a proclamation of Public Works Week, May the 21st through the 25th. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets, and drainage. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skills of public works officials, and whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitudes and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, William Lanford III, Mayor of City of Haltom City, Texas, do hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through 25th, 2007 as Public Works Week, and encourage our citizens to recognize the positive contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Mr. Fang, congratulations.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor Lanford and members of the council. Just briefly wanted to tell each of you thank you for the tremendous support that you provide our department year in and year out, especially during our budget process, which kicks off here in a couple of weeks. But seriously, we do look at Public Works Week in our department and celebrate it every year with, of course, I see some of you displaying your hats, and we also celebrate it with what we call an equipment rodeo, which happens this Friday, the 25th, in the city of Southlake. Our community has participated in this particular event for 10 years now, and there's about a dozen cities in northeast Tarrant County that participate in this event in such great activities as a catch and release activity, which is using a great all piece of equipment, and we have another piece of equipment that we utilize in what's called a serpentine event, and that's driving a dump truck through cones, and we also have what is called setting the charge, where we utilize a backhoe. And we also have another event called Scoot and Boogie, where we drive a skid steer through some cones. But more importantly, our whole department goes and participates in this annual event, and they're fed very well, and they just enjoy the opportunity to go and visit with folks in similar types of work in other communities. And we also do very well. Out of the 15 possible entries that we could participate in, we had 7 folks that won events out of the 15 last year. So we're real proud of our folks, and here again, we thank you for your support.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have some announcement events. Tom, I'm going to ask you if you will address some of the personnel changes we've had.
Well, let me do that after him.
Okay, all right.
He's going to finish up with Tom, and then I'll...
Oh, is he? Okay, all right. Well, then we'll have Chuck Barnett give us some announcements.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I got the feeling you thought that was more important than what I'm
going
to be
discussing.
discussing.
Never.
Mayor, City Council, and citizens, a couple announcements. Haltom City Senior Center will host a special memorial program at 11 a.m. this Friday, May the 25th. Patrons of the center who have passed away in the past, particularly this past year, will be remembered. Family members and friends are encouraged to attend the special memorial program. Kickoff for the summer reading program will take place at 2 p.m. this Saturday, May the 26th at the library. A featured performer will be John Murphy, who is a singer and guitarist from a band called Just in Time. Readers of all ages are welcome to sign up for the 6-week program. Members will not win prizes for reading. However, they are encouraged to participate in all the activities, hear from special guests, and enjoy the crafts. And again, this program is entirely free. Don't forget the deadline for entries in the Haltom City Public Library Texas Writers Month Contest. That's a lot to say in one sentence. That deadline is Thursday, May 31st. This year's theme is Poem on the Range. Works are being accepted in short story and poetry categories, and judges will determine winners in 4 age divisions. This is another one of our free programs. There's no charge to enter. Writers may drop off their entries at the public library or electronically by email to lmsmith@haltomcitytx.com. For more information, call 817-222-7790. Registration for adult softball is in full swing and continues at the Haltom City Recreation Center throughout the month of May. Season play will begin the week of June the 11th. All teams will play at North Park. Leagues will include men and co-ed divisions. For information, call the Rec Center at 817-831-6465. 1 in 3 people are victims of identity theft. While identity theft cannot be entirely prevented, you, who is the victim, can recover very quickly and minimize the damage. Joyce Medore and Linda Garton, experts on identity theft situations, will present identity recovery, information, and preparation for identity theft at 6:30 p.m. Monday, June the 18th at the Haltom City Public Library. This program is free and open to the public. For more information, call 817-222-7786. As a reminder to our citizens, city offices will be closed Monday, May the 28th for Memorial Day. However, trash pickup will not be affected and be scheduled. For information about our city of Haltom City, log on to our newly designed website at www.haltomcitytx.com. That website is the result of a lot of hard work and dedication to some of our employees who do a lot of work behind the scenes that the citizens don't have the opportunity to see their works. A special thanks to our person who heads up our Haltom City TV cable, David Soriano, for doing the website. You know that one of the scenes you have in Batman, I think the Joker says, "I'm a lot happier now than I used to be." With that tonight, I'd like to do a special introduction. As you're aware, we had our Park and Recreation Director retired after many years of service with our city. We went out for recruitment, and tonight I'm going to introduce you to our new Park and Recreation Director. This is Tom Henry, comes from us from Irving. We stole him. I believe he was with Irving for 18 years, and Tom has a long speech made out that he'd like to read to the public. And with that, Tom,
thank you, sir.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. And Chuck was just pulling your leg. I don't have a long speech made out. It's been my first day on the job. I'm still on the job, and I plan on returning to the job tomorrow. So I want to put everybody at ease on that. I really am looking forward to the opportunity of working here. There's a lot of potential here from what I've seen. I really love the rec center. I love the parks. There's a lot of things that can be done, and I'm really looking forward to helping out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And I agree with Chuck. We're excited that he is here, and as I know the rest of the staff is out there. I want to let citizens know about a few other personnel issues. Our fire chief, Jerry McIntyre, and our fire marshal, Charlie Langham, are going to be retiring at the end of the month. And they are going out about like this, extremely quiet. They do not want a lot of fanfare. I think I had to strong arm to take them to lunch today. They don't want anything, so I'm letting them go out the way they want to. But it's well-deserved. Jerry was here over 31 years. I think Charlie was here a little bit longer than that, almost 35. But it's a lot of experience, a lot of know-how retiring, and I'm happy for them and congratulate them on their retirement. The final move is our deputy police chief is moving on. Next month he will start his new duties in New Braunfels as their police chief, and he is excited about it, and we all are here are excited for him. He'll do them a wonderful job, and we're sorry to see him go. We're sad to see him leave, but it's a good opportunity for him.
That's a wonderful statement about our police force as well,
Mm-hmm.
Tom. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think next, this is not on the agenda, but I'm going to work it in the announcement and events. Some of the council members who recently went through election wanted to make a statement, and so we'll just start down here. We'll start down here. Huh?
I plan on mine being short
Okay.
because I'm always last.
Okay. Well, we don't want to upset that. All right.
Bill, we could go with
Jim,
ladies
go
first
ahead.
if you'd like.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
Well, mine is fairly short. Thanks to all my supporters who have entrusted me for a third term on City Council. I'm humbled and grateful for your votes of confidence in my leadership. I also want to congratulate the mayor and my colleagues for their successful reelection campaigns. I have greatly enjoyed your unique perspectives on this council, and I look confidently forward to working with you all on the next term. Direction of this community is reflected in the slate of candidates which were elected, which will be evident at the council level in days to come as we deliberate together. I wish to congratulate my challenger, Don Cooper, for a well-run campaign that elevated issues in a principled and thoughtful manner. I believe this community is going to benefit greatly from honest, respectful discussion of our various concerns. Please keep all of us that were elected to be on council in your prayers and thoughts as we establish policies and budget priorities for the community. That's it.
Thank you, Jim. Chris?
Well, that was pretty good, Jim. I think that was a record for you. I wasn't quite expecting that speed there. Me talking, I guess, is no strange situation to those of you who are tuned in or actually present tonight. I never have a whole lot to say, but I do wish to show my gratitude for giving me this opportunity again to serve in this capacity. I do. Like I've said before, I do consider it an honor. I hold it highly, and I thank you for allowing me to do this again. I look forward to the 2 years ahead of us, and not to let it slip by. I also wanted to thank my competitor, who happens to be sitting in the back tonight. I think many of us here tonight know what's capable of happening in the political times of our city, and I just tip my hat because it went smooth. It was a tight, close call, and I wanted to take this opportunity to thank him as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Diane, would you like to?
Of course, I'd like to talk. And mine was intentionally short because usually I'm at this end and it's all been said. And Jim, he's right, it's a record for you. Rachel did a good job cutting that down for you. I want to thank the citizens for entrusting me in another 2 years. I am humbled and really speechless, but sort of speechless. But I just want you all to know that there's a lot of good things coming ahead for Haltom City. There's a lot of things in the works that I'm excited to be a part of helping to see finished. And I want to encourage everyone to stay in touch. I think elections are great. It gives you an opportunity to get out and talk to people that perhaps you only really talk to every 2 years. And that's sad because I wish that they could pick up the phone and call me every time that they had an idea. I've heard some great ideas, and I just want to thank all the citizens that came out and voted. And I just want to thank the citizens of Haltom City for being such a great group to represent.
Thank you. And I'll wrap that up with just a few words to also thank the citizens of Haltom City and in particular those who were brave enough and courageous enough to step forward and offer themselves up for service to our community. That does take a special act of courage, I can assure you. And I appreciate the ability to and opportunity to discuss policy and to have elections and do the fundamental democracy work of democracy, which is to vote. And thank you for allowing us to have another 2 years to serve you. I appreciate that and look forward to that service. With that said, we will move on to the reports next on the agenda.
Mayor,
Yes.
you're getting better too.
Well, thank you.
Shorter.
Thank you.
John,
I hope I don't get much shorter. My feet are
Talking
dangling off
length
this
of
chair already.
speech is shorter.
I second that motion.
Okay. Moving right along, the reports, the monthly financial report for April, brought to us by Mr. Joel Welch.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. It is my understanding that since I was gone last month for the financial report and my able assistants presented you a report, that there were apparently some lamentations about my not presenting the report. And so since you did miss me last month, I'll be twice as long this month to make up for it. Not necessary, huh? Okay.
Just read the memo.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, we are 58% of the way through the year. Basically, 7 months of data is now in our hands, so that we can now make some informed judgments about where we are financially for the year and how we think we're doing, and the projections that I provide for you each month. If you notice, the variances in them are beginning to narrow. They're not swinging as widely as they did before, and so a number of trends are becoming apparent. Property tax collections are right on track. They're going to be just fine. Apparently, from information I've seen, the one issue that I saw of the housing corporation that had issues with its tax exemption apparently have been rectified. I have seen the new numbers from the appraisal district, the May 15th estimate of values, and they are still in the taxable category, so I think that matter has been fairly well settled out. And I mention that because I've been mentioning it in the text of the document for the last 3 or 4 months. And I will go ahead and mention, even though this is not specifically in the report, it is a matter of particular interest to the council, that the May 15th net taxable value of property in Haltom City, it was up 5% from September 1st of last year. And I do give you this information with caution, in that is the first number we get each year. That is before a profusion of appeals will come on business property and on residential property. That value typically moves down from May to July. And so as we go forward, we're typically holding on to our impression of probably about a 3% gain at the end of the day, pretty much like we saw for this fiscal year. A bright spot is that we're beginning to get a little more comfort with where we stand on sales taxes. And of course, this is a matter of particular impact in the general fund, the Economic Development Corporation, the Street Reconstruction Fund, and in the crime district. And we're seeing a low level of stability, very similar to what I was talking about early in the fiscal year, before the collections became a bit unstable and I began to get a little worried about the trends. It seems like that we have, at least at this point, resumed a progression where we're expecting to see somewhere in the range of 2.7 to 3% increase over last year, which will bring us within a good striking distance of the budget and all of the funds. I'm expecting a slight surplus in terms of revenues in this fiscal year in all of those funds, but of course of most interest in the general fund. As far as expenditures go in the general fund, and I'll speak on it more specifically at this point, the expenditures in the general fund, everyone is again staying pretty well within their target ranges. I will be bringing a budget amendment probably at the second council meeting in June to make some corrections, some technical corrections in the general fund budget for some items that has already been brought to the council's attention. A couple of the examples of this are the Tatum contract for the IT master plan, the compensation study. These things were things that the council has already approved, and the state code does allow us to make changes in the budget for municipal purposes. And this is going to be some of those technical corrections, and that will affect the one department where I'm projecting that expenditures will exceed their budget ultimately. So overall, the general fund's in pretty good shape. I want to provide a little bit of perspective and guidance on the approach that I take when I talk about the water and sewer fund. I know that in the past there's been some questions raised about potential mixed signals of the city talking about wanting citizens to conserve, and then the finance director gets up and talks about sales and how sales fall short of projections and the problems that creates. And while on the surface there would appear to be a bit of a cross purpose there, I just want to say that when I'm doing my report and I'm talking about the water and sewer fund, I am speaking strictly from the financial performance perspective, speaking strictly from the relationship of water sales to the obligations that the city makes when the council approves the budget each year. And I'm as much for conservation as anyone else, but my role with the city is to talk with you about how well we're going about meeting our obligations. So when I talk about sales projecting to be about 6% below our budget target for the year, and my concern about that, it is again strictly from the perspective of meeting the obligations that we have to the people that hold our bonds. Because the thing is, yes, some institutional holders have our bonds, but a lot of individuals hold our bonds. And so it's very important that we meet our obligations and pay our debts. It's also important that we have money to make payroll for the people that we employ to maintain the system. So when I'm talking about this from the financial perspective, it's just about meeting our obligations. And I did talk, usually I do this verbally, but this time in the executive summary I talked about rainfall. Because rainfall, last year at this time, I was lamenting the lack of rainfall because we had received less than 14 inches from the period of October through April. Normal for this area is about 19.8 inches. Well, so far this year we've received over 23 inches, which is the primary contributory factor toward the reduced water sales. Now, as we head into the hotter months of summer, we may see some patterns change, because rain will become less plentiful at that point, and the fact that it's been wetter during the winter months and into the spring may cause more water sales during the summer. We'll just have to see. But overall, the water and sewer fund, with a little bit of the hurt from the sales of water, the sales of wastewater and the surcharges are pretty close to on track. We're in pretty good shape in that area. Expenditures are under control. One of the upsides of lower water sales is that we're buying less water from Fort Worth Water. So there is a savings that offsets the revenue shortfall. So the situation that could be a little trickier is a little less challenging because of that. The drainage utility fund is, I'm pretty much a broken record. If you notice in the executive summary, I haven't changed a lot of the text that I'm talking about on there. This one's going to be a little touch and go. The revenue stream has dipped just slightly this year. Expenditures are fairly constant in there. It's largely going to depend upon how we do on the operational side of the budget as to how we turn out this year. I'm projecting right now that we'll be fairly close to break even in the drainage utility. As far as the street reconstruction, as I mentioned before, it's one of the bright spots. I think that sales taxes are going to exceed expectations. The fund's going to be fine. We can always tailor our projects to meet the revenue stream, so there's not a problem with that. The crime district, we're going to have to keep a real close eye on it going into the end of this fiscal year. As I've mentioned before in our budget retreats and our previous retreats to Paradise, that in the multi-year plan that we were going to hit a point with the crime district where it was going to get tight. But then it would be tight for 1 year and that would loosen up. Well, we're about to enter into that tight phase, and it should only go for about 1 year, and it'll be all right then. But the Economic Development Fund there's no issues with the Economic Development Fund. It's doing just fine. As far as investments go, we are probably more liquid than we have been in a long time. We have a lot of our portfolio is bond money, so it stays very liquid. We don't invest it out for 2 years like we do everything else. Right now, the way the market is, that doesn't hurt us. Short-term money earns better interest than longer-term money. But we continue to ladder everything out that we can because the market could change. But our interest rate on our portfolio is exceeding the benchmark, and so we're doing fine. Our weighted average maturity is 115 days, and like I said, the weighted average yield is at just over 5%, and our target's at 4.87%. So the portfolio is doing well. If we manage the portfolio well, what happens to us is in the long run, our interest income in the general fund offsets almost a penny on the tax rate. So as good a job as we can do with the portfolio and still keep the money safe is what we really need to do with the organization. I just want to mention from the supplemental data in the back, and this is the last thing that I'm going to comment upon, is that I was very surprised to see that the March unemployment rate in Haltom City was 4.3%. That was a very amazing percentage to me. It's the lowest I've seen since we've been tracking it. It's actually even below the national norm, but our norm for Haltom City has been in the 4.6 to 4.8% range, and in March we were down to 4.3%. So I thought that was very interesting.
Thank you, Joel. Mr. Cabano, you have some questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Joel, on page 4 of the Street Reconstruction Fund,
Mm-hmm.
I may be missing it. I don't have a beginning and ending fund balance on current month. Do we keep that?
The reason we don't really, or on this one, well, it really should be there. Let me just put it that way.
Okay.
We should have a beginning balance at the current month and at the end. The fund balance on the ending in that column would be the exact same as the year to date.
Right.
But the current month beginning, it should be there, and we'll fix that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Hutchison.
Yes, Mr. Finance Director, average weighted average maturity, what are we looking for? You talk about that quite extensively quite a bit of the time. You would like to look for a longer period of time because the market is so flexible. But what are you looking for as far as WHAM is concerned?
Our benchmark is based upon a WHAM of 90 days. When we try to push the weighted average maturity out, usually in a normal yield curve, you get better interest rates because you have more of your money invested and laddered out up to the 2-year period. So I like to get the WHAM into the 120-plus day range. So we're just short of that. I don't take any chances to get to it. I'd like to get there doing what we do, but as it moves up or down, it just does. But you're asking me my philosophical approach. My philosophical is over 120.
Well, and the reason I mention that is because this is the first time I've seen in a while that we've been over 100 days, mm-hmm. and that, to me, that bodes well. I know we're in for maybe some some lean years in the future, and the market continues to be flexible, and with price of gas, for instance, going up all the time, we continue to show that we don't have control over a lot of the factors, but we try as hard as we can. So I consider this very good as far as I'm concerned. I think you're right. I think we need to go for 120 days without having an income flow that's we're not able to pay our bills because we're investing so much. So I think this is very good.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sutton.
Sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing, that part of our structuring of our portfolio right now is predicated upon some assumptions that toward the end of this calendar year that the Federal Reserve is going to start cutting the overnight rate again. And when they start cutting the overnight rate again, yields are going to begin to fall again. And we're going to be in a position we'll still fall, but we'll fall much slower than the market. And that's part of what we're trying to accomplish, is to try to soften that blow a little bit.
Which proves once again the market precedes the Fed, always.
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 Go ahead.
Yeah, that's good. Joel, hypothetically speaking, if the council receives a budget adjustment sometime in the next month or two for those IT expenditures, the things that we've been talking about, would that correct the entire balance of the $137,765 that the non-departmental is out of budget right now?
Yes, sir.
So that's the plan, is to present it so that that entire overage is going to be mitigated then?
Yes, sir. That issue and some others will be addressed with the
Okay.
request for the council.
When can we expect, when will the council expect that?
I would bring it at the next council meeting, except that I'm not going to be here. So
Okay.
it'll have to be the June 25th meeting.
Excellent. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Joel regarding the monthly financial report for April? If not, entertain a motion to dispose. Mr. Hutchison.
Yes, thank you, Joel, for the good report, and make a motion that we accept the financial report as reported.
And Mr. Cabano.
That's for a second, Mr. Mayor, with the correction that we talked about on the street reconstruction fund.
Oh, okay.
And the beginning and ending fund balance on there.
Yes, yeah, he noted that. All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the monthly financial report for April. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to ask,
Yeah, Jim.
Joel and I talked about a couple typographical errors in here, and that if the report can reflect those, it was just some grammatical things that
Okay.
needed corrected, and Joel's aware of them.
Okay.
If that would be okay with the motion in the second. Great, all right.
They've signified their approval. Any further discussion? All right, please register your vote. That is unanimous. Next item on the agenda is Capital Improvement Status Report by David Fain. David?
Thank you, Mayor Lanford, members of the council. I can ask Mr. Watkins to dim the lights. Thank you. We'll go through this bi-monthly capital improvement project summary. If this will work. There it goes. The first item we want to brief the council on is the Vicky, Glenhaven, Bewley, and Harris reconstruction project. We're at about 85% complete. This has been a very great project. It's gone along very well. We've just had a few inclement weather days. When I come back to the council in 2 months, hopefully we won't have to revisit this particular project. And I always say pictures really speak well when we're reconstructing streets. Here is a before and under construction. Actually, on Vicky, the sidewalks are in. We just need to, the contractor needs to plant the sod, and we'll be complete on Vicky Street. Glenhaven is substantially complete. Great picture of the ponding on Glenhaven before the reconstruction, and here again, it is a very beautiful street in our community today. Bewley, same thing. This was a particular street in our community without curb and gutter and sidewalks. Now they have curb, gutter, and sidewalks. So the before and under the construction, here again, all they really need to do on this particular street is plant the sod. Harris Lane is the particular street that's had some inclement weather issues. It's really hard to tell from this particular picture on the right that concrete is in on both sides of that street. And we always said in our Department of Public Works, this is the particular street in our community where we got rid of the asphalt at the end of the day because there were so many potholes. We could continually go to that street every day and fill potholes. The next project is community development block grant projects. We have two that are on the dockets. We have the 32nd year project, which will be the reconstruction of Woods Lane from Parish to the dead end, and the approximate cost, as you can see there. And we hope to bring this back to the council within the next couple of months for your to award a contract to a contractor. The next project is the 33rd year CDBG project, which would be the reconstruction of Dana Drive from Denton Highway to Bewley. The council approved this particular project in February of 2006, but actually this particular project will not take place until next fiscal year. And here are a couple before pictures. Meadow Oaks Reconstruction Project. This particular project is administered through the Department of Public Works, our construction department. We've had a few delays, of course, of rain, and we're reconstructing this Meadow Oaks from Webster to Vicky. It's hard to tell. The before and under construction pictures aren't much different, except the one on the right is the crew has already removed all the curb and all the sidewalks, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be getting ready to pour some curbs and some new sidewalks on this particular street. Water and sewer projects. The council on April the 19th, that's actually 2007, awarded a contract to TriTech to replace approximately 3,500 feet of water main, fire hydrants, and services. And it's a kind of a dual project. Presently, TriTech is on Midway Road, replacing that water line from Menace to Carson. And then once they complete that particular part of the project, they'll move to Young Street and continue laying water main, fire hydrants, and services. And we're at about 40% complete on this project. Diamond Oak Sanitary Sewer, you've seen this a number of times. The council did award an engineering services contract to Teagnall and Perkins on December 11th of last year, and it's still in the design phase, and it is to replace an existing sewer trunk line that runs through the Diamond Oaks area and follows that channel over into North Richland Hills, and then this particular line dumps into the Fort Worth sanitary sewer trunk main. Council awarded a contract to Diamond Enterprises on February 26th of this year to repair and recondition tank number 3 at the North Oaks Pump Station at approximate cost of $207,000. A little slow start here for the contractor, but they're moving right along, and you can see tank 3 there in the middle, on the left side in the middle of those other tanks, and you can visually tell that it needed to be reconditioned. And of course, there on the right, you can see the contractor is on site and doing their work. And there have been no issues on this particular project. Big Fossil Creek. I know a representative from the North Central Texas Council of Governments came in January and presented some information to you, the council, on where they were. And they did say in April they would bring a report of the existing conditions in this particular creek, and of course they have not provided that information to us as of this date, and I did provide the council with a memorandum updating you on that particular project from a gentleman from the Council of Governments. On hold. Little Fossil Creek, here again the council did receive good word, and the staff, that the appropriations have been approved by Congress. And all we're waiting for is the Corps of Engineers to provide the documents for the city to enter into a contract with the Corps to begin the Little Fossil Creek improvements. And next, we're going to, I think I may hear Mr. Barnett, our Assistant City Manager, coming forth to give the council an update on the library.
He's got that cane. It takes him
Moving a little slowly tonight.
Having a little difficulty getting out of my chair, excuse me.
as you're aware, we did go out and we solicited for vendors our contractors to submit their proposals to us. We did not receive bids. All we did was recognize the number of people who were going to be looking at the construction of the library. We took those 5 and we ranked them. I met with F&S over in Dallas, the architects of record. Met with them after the ranking, and we decided there was one particular contractor we'd like to talk to and brought them back in, and we started negotiating to what the construction costs would be for that. My hope is that sometime this week they'll get back with us over the issues that we were discussing as part of the construction. And as I've asked Tom to have a little patience with me, try to bring that to the council for approval by June the 11th. If I do not hear from him by this week, then it's probably going to be the meeting after that. Now, you've already got the water line that's been moved. TXU's behind in moving their electrical line, even though we've already paid them and we're in agreement for them to relocate that line. So those 2 hurdles have already been taken care of. So any questions? We're still looking at a 365-day construction on the project, which I think is good news.
Okay, thank you.
And that's the CIP report. I can answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Sutton?
Yeah, Dave, I got a email here from Steve Ross. I think that you got it. And he says here that they're thinking about extending the deadline for that report to September 2007. Is that what I'm reading in
Yes,
that
sir.
email?
That's correct.
So they haven't got approval of that, though, from
From the Corps of Engineers. I think it's to me, he wasn't real specific. To me, it's a funding issue with them to continue to move forward.
It's
with
another
this project.
funding issue
I
thing.
think so. He
Okay.
didn't allude to that. But
That's what it seems.
I'm
So I just wanted to
reading
get your take on it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Fang? Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is considered to be self-explanatory and will be enacted by the council with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Approval of the consent agenda authorizes the city manager to implement each item in accordance with staff or board recommendations. We did have one item on the agenda removed from the consent agenda. That's item number 5. So the consent agenda will consist of items 3, 4, 6, and 7. 3, 4, 6, and 7. Ms. Reese?
I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with 3, 4, 6, and 7.
Do we have a second? Mr. Sutton?
That's for a second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda consisting of items 3, 4, 6, and 7. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. And that is unanimous. Next item under the regular agenda is item 5, resolution number R2007-008-03, consideration and or action approving a resolution to participate in the Tarrant County HFC Single Family Mortgage Revenue Bond Program. Is Joel, you going to tell us about that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution that we're asking the council to consider to allow citizens in Haltom City to make application through the Tarrant County Housing Finance Corporation to be able to get assistance, mortgage assistance, and such that they can get a mortgage rate that will be below market. It's currently estimated to be 6%. It'll be established at the time whenever they conclude the sale of the bonds, but what this does is it allows people who have not owned a home in the past 3 years to be able to get some financing they might not otherwise get. Another really good feature about this program is that they can get cash assistance of up to 4.5% of the purchase price to be used toward down payment and closing costs. And this is something that we have to do. State law requires that cities above 20,000 in population have to adopt a resolution allowing everyone to participate in this program. And we did this last year. Last year was the last time that they had issued bonds for this loan opportunity for first-time home buyers and, as I mentioned before, people who have not owned a home in the past 3 years. And they don't do this every year. I think the last time they did it before 2006 was around 2002. It's something that they're able to do when interest rates kind of get up. But it's a good thing for the citizens. It's something that any of our citizens that would be looking at buying a home in the next year would certainly want to consider if they're renting now, if they don't have a home, and would like to get one.
Thank you, Joel. Ms. Reese.
I've just got a couple of if someone was interested in doing this, do you know if there's age requirements, or who do they go to get more information on the qualifications and what you do?
Of course, Tarrant County is going to be, through their Housing Finance Corporation, is going to be the most direct source of information. Once we're committed and into this program, I'm pretty much sure that we can probably get some information from the Housing Finance Corporation that we could share with citizens if they don't already plan to give it to us. If we choose to participate, I'm sure we can get some.
Yeah, it would be, more specifically, it'd be through the Community Development Department of the county, if they would, of the county, the Tarrant County Community Development. Right, and they can direct them from there. Yeah.
Ms. Branson?
Thank you. Tom, would it be appropriate to put it on our website as to who they should contact, so that if there's someone that live in Haltom City and they come to our website first, we can either link to that
We
website?
can. We've got links to the counties, but it's not specifically for this program. We'll see what we can do about doing that.
Is it worthy of mentioning it
Sure.
on the website somewhere?
Sure.
And I believe it's a limited dollar amount. I think when it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
Yes, they will sell bonds in the amount that they're going to loan out, and it'll be pretty much a first come, first served.
Well, I know we have a lot of interested citizens. I have questions where people inquire about that on a regular basis.
Any other questions for Joel? Just a point of clarification, Joel. You said the city must vote on this. That is, the city must vote on this if we're going to participate in it.
Yes, sir.
That's okay. We had that discussion earlier, and I wanted to make sure that people at home understood that. All right. Any other questions for Joel? This is on item 5. Then I'm open for motion to dispose. Mr. Holcomb.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve resolution number R2007-008-03.
Ms. Reese?
That's for a second.
Been moved and seconded to approve resolution R2007-008-03. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. That is unanimous. Next on the regular agenda is the classification and compensation study, consideration or action regarding approval of comparator cities. Tony?
Mayor and members of the City Council, we have the classification and compensation study that we're doing. That is, we're doing it in 2 parts. We have the classification piece, which they've already undertaken. They came out and met with employees, and they're preparing draft job descriptions for us now. The second piece is to do the compensation part of it. So what we have before you tonight is a request to approve the cities that we use for the comparators. The cities that they're recommending from the consultant is Benbrook, Bedford, Colleyville, Euless, Fort Worth, Grapevine, Hurst, Keller, Mansfield, North Richland Hills, South Lake, Watauga, Tarrant County, and for some of the positions, they recommend that we use the Texas Workforce Commission so we can get a good idea of what the labor market is, what the salary ranges are for the labor market. There's been some discussion about consideration of other cities, so this is really just their initial recommendations. We can make additions or deletions as needed.
I believe we asked for some cities to be added to that. Jim, you want to enumerate those again?
Tony, you did great. That is excellent. That's presenting it. This is their recommendation to us. In the pre-council, we talked about also including some other cities which would help us broaden our focus. Instead of having a narrow focus, having a little bit wider focus on the types of cities that we may favorably compare to. And so I had suggested that based upon my research in North Central Texas Council of Governments website that we also include Saginaw and White Settlement and Arlington, and with the caveat that with the Arlington we would not compare the director level position, since that's not an apples to apples comparison. Okay. So I would ask my fellow colleagues to consider the addition of these 3 cities, which I think will help this study become a lot more useful for tracking cities that have parameters that are much like our cities.
Thank you, Jim. Any further discussion or questions for Tony? Ms. Reese.
I just wanted to put on record most of the cities that are on here, I'm real concerned about comparing us workforce-wise with them, because our pay does go, it ultimately goes back to tax base, and I'm concerned because there are cities here that we just can't compete with. We don't have malls. We don't have fine arts facilities. We just don't have stuff, and I just can't do this one. I just can't do this one. So, thanks.
Okay, any further discussion or questions? Yes, Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. Tony, have you seen any of the data yet on how the employees have described their job positions? Is it any different than how HR describes the job position? Have you seen anything different?
Well, we haven't seen anything yet from the consultant. They're still preparing the draft job descriptions, but once we see them, we'll sit down with the department directors and have them review them and make sure that they're in line with what the actual duties are.
And then once we get that, we will compare it with these other cities from what their HR departments send us describing their employees, correct?
Yes, the consultant will do that. They'll take the pay plans from the other cities, and then they'll contact them, to verify that there's a good match for the positions, and then they'll do the matching for our positions.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Sutton.
Yeah, I was going to just add to it that the way this study is done, from what I understand, is it's going to pool these so that we don't have a one-to-one comparison with, like, for instance, Hearst or Bedford, things like that. And that's one of the reasons why I really felt like it was important to include several other cities that are maybe a little bit closer to where Haltom City is, so that we have a broader dynamic range to look at and a more accurate picture for us to make these comparisons on. So, and I agree with my colleague, Ms. Reese. Ms. Reese, she's exactly right.
And if I may add, that's exactly right. We do get a comparison. So we're trying to really match the jobs. And I understand that the tax base at the city of Haltom City is certainly different than some of these other cities. So once we have the information as to where the recommended market is, the city council and the city staff will have to make a determination of how we fund any changes that are made and what market position that we want to take. So that's where we would make any adjustments that we need to make based on tax base or affordability, really.
That's kind of where we decide where we want to be, like 50th percentile, 75th percentile, 60, or somewhere along those lines. If you want to take into account the tax base, we deal with the pay plan from that perspective.
Okay. Mr. Holcomb, did you?
No, Councilmember Sutton beat me to it.
Okay, all right. Ms. Branson.
Yes, thanks. Tony, did you tell me, or maybe I misunderstood, but part of the reason some of these cities were selected is these are the cities that our employees leave and seek employment or actually go to work?
Yes, these are some of the competitive cities. These are cities that we compete with for positions. We lose employees to these positions because they're recruited away, either based on salary, benefits, work environment, things like that. So these are who we compete with. And these cities, each of them do salary studies as well. So then we're really getting a broader spectrum because they don't necessarily use the same cities that we use. So they are using cities and gathering data and setting their market and their pay plans, and then we're gathering from different cities. So you get really a broader feel for what the actual market is in Tarrant County and this Metroplex area that we're in.
And just to clarify for the folks that maybe have seen some of the salary surveys in the past we've seen, for example, PR. Let's take our take David, who does the videotaping of the council meetings and that sort of thing. So we would see that position, then it would compare Hearst, and then it would say Grapevine, and it would say Colleyville. So we would actually see the salaries in each of those cities, where this one's just going to be an average or some sort of weighted dollar amount for that position, correct?
Yes, we'll see the actual salaries for each of those cities, but they'll be averaged to get a market average. So the lower cities, where the cities pay lower and their salaries are certainly lower than some of the other cities, they'll balance each other out, and so we'll come with an average salary. And that's the point where the city will have to make a determination, where do we want to be in the marketplace? Do we want to be, what percent, what we can afford versus, what the market dictates?
Okay, so it's sort of a statistical analysis,
Yes,
more
it
than
is.
just compare salary here, and salary here. It's got some weights and other variables in it, right?
Yes.
Multiple steps,
Okay.
multiple variations.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much. Mr. Sutton?
I'm ready to make a motion.
All right, make a motion.
All right, I move to approve the comparative cities classification and compensation study with the addition of the Saginaw and White Settlement and Arlington cities, with the caveat for the Arlington director level jobs that applies to Fort Worth.
Ms. Branson?
I will second that.
Any further discussion? Then please register your vote. And that is 6-1. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item number 9, the Energy Services Master Agreement. This is consideration and action approving an Energy Services Master Agreement with Chevron Energy Services. Mr. Lamentations himself is with us again.
Mayor, I feel like I've
Mr.
been
Welch.
up here all night. I'm sorry.
Well,
I knew I could count on my boss. What we're asking the council to consider tonight is to allow the city to enter into an energy services master agreement with Chevron Energy Services. This document is a master contract. It's going to form the foundation of the energy savings program it's going to be a citywide, far-reaching process at which we're going to make some great leaps forward, hopefully, in terms of being able to provide services to the community, make services more efficient that we're already providing, and the result of this is not only some efficiencies gained, but also save on energy, which that being not only electrical energy, but also save in water usage, and in other ways that are going to be beneficial to the city operation. But tonight, what we're asking the council to consider is the master agreement, which will contain all of the foundational rules and requirements that will apply to all of the work orders that come along. That's how this is going to work. In fact, tonight we have the master agreement and work order number 1. And so what will happen is each work order will draw from the master agreement for its foundational rules and regulations. But each work order, for example, tonight work order 1, which is being submitted, is the work order that will call for an in-depth study of several functions of the city. It's going to include the development of the Wi-Fi solution. It's going to include the development of an automated meter reading process that will work through the Wi-Fi. There's going to be studies of the lighting in public buildings. There's going to be studies of technologies that we can put on our irrigation systems at the parks to control when and how we water and how to save water there. There's going to be we're going to be looking at pumps and electric motors throughout the city. And all of these things are going to be part of a series of work orders that's going to be developed as a result of the feasibility study in work order number 1. So what we're asking the council to consider is, like I said, the ground rules and the first work order. All of the other work orders will be coming back to the council for your consideration. So nothing is going to get ahead of you as we go through this process. We're going to bring it to you piece by piece. Tonight with us, in case you'd like to to hear from him or ask him any questions is Doug Kirkley from Chevron Energy Solutions. You met him a few months ago when he and Bill Young made a presentation talking about some of the possibilities of our energy services agreement. Bill Young is also here tonight. He's with Red Moon, and he was here for the workshop. He's really kind of in a support mode tonight, but I would suspect that either one of them would be interested in answering any questions you may have.
Joel, I have a question. In the pre-meeting, you mentioned a rough timeline that was pretty quickly about getting Wi-Fi started, and then something when it was its approximate completion date. Could you share that with us out here?
Yes, sir. I certainly will. We intend Wi-Fi is going to be work order number 2. We intend to bring work order number 2 at the June 25th council meeting and ask the council for permission to proceed. Work order number 2 will show the numbers. It'll tell the story of what we can do. If the council approves work order 2, we will begin the process of installing a Wi-Fi mesh in Haltom City. Definitely, we can say with a high degree of confidence, barring weather problems or something else, that the whole city would be covered in a mesh by about February of next year, if not sooner, was the exact words from Red Moon. In fact, certain areas of the city could be brought into service by the very early fall.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Branson.
Thanks, Mayor. Would you mind addressing somewhat what Wi-Fi is and how it will help our businesses down on 121 that have not been able to have access to high-speed internet, and how hopefully that will open up some more business opportunities down in the lower end of town? Not only that, but also for the citizens that live down there who've not been able to get the best internet connections available.
Yes, ma'am. I'll start by defining the problem. And the problem is that south of 28th Street, there is no uniformity in terms of service for either residential or commercial business, except for satellite service, which is expensive for residential and extremely expensive for business. And the other solution is dial-up, which is reasonably priced for something that is just so painfully slow that it's just hard to describe.
And our businesses down south can't use dial-up for a lot of the specs and plans that come their way. Isn't
a lot
that
of our
correct?
businesses down, yes. I mean, if you've waited in line even at a fast food place that's still using a dial-up modem for credit card payment, you can tell how slow that is. Can you imagine some of our businesses that are trying to send large pieces of information or receive large pieces of information over a line moving at a speed? Dial-up is about 1/10 of the speed of good DSL. So, for people that have DSL, can you imagine everything moving at about 10% of the rate? So, but if you're a business, this is a disadvantage. You are at a competitive disadvantage if you don't have something other than that. And a satellite service for a residential customer, the last time I ever looked at the price, was at least $69 a month. So it's not feasible for residents. Now, people in other parts of town have DSL service. DSL service can be rather expensive. I don't know what the cable people charge, but if you have AT&T DSL, after the initial introductory rate goes away, your monthly rate's about $39.99 a month, which is what I'm paying right now at home. And what happens is the alternative that we want to bring is a public-private partnership with Red Moon. They will install large antennas on top of our water towers and a few other locations that will capture a wireless signal that comes in. It will then fan that signal out through the town, and all over town on electric poles, street lights, and other tall structures around, they will have these devices called radios. I call them nodes. They kind of look like nodes. And there will be, I don't know, there will be several dozen of these nodes around town. And each of these nodes captures signals from the towers. They capture signals coming from your home. And so you can have wireless internet access from your home or from your business. And it works with a desktop, with a adapter card. You can use it with your notebook computer. In fact, the advantage of the Wi-Fi system with a notebook computer is you can use it inside your house, outside your house, in your car, at the park, any particular place that you care to go inside of the city, you can use a notebook computer and just be into the system.
And it's secure.
That's a good thing. Could I ask one more question? Please?
Sure.
Okay. Will this help enable us to accept online payments for the water department?
It will be a tool that'll make it possible for us to accept online payments for the water department. The main thing that we need to do to get the ability together to take payments online is to get our utility billing software, our new utility billing software installed. We are at a point, and I know I'm going off topic for a second, but I want to answer your question. But we have reached a point now to where a city that was using the billing software that we're using right now has completed a conversion to the software that we're going to. It's all complete. Everything's done there. All of the methods have been tried and worked out. And so therefore we're going to be starting next month, early next month, working on bringing in the new utility billing system into the city and getting it functional. Once we have it up and functional, we'll be able to work out a means through the web page to where people with either wired internet or wireless internet will be able to come through our web page and make payments online.
Okay, so it's two separate.
They
two
can,
two
yeah,
separate- two
that's not
separate
the
deals.
only solution. There's multiple
Okay.
infrastructure issues that need to happen for that to happen. But the Wi-Fi is just a component of it, but it's not the solution, nor is the software the solution. There's a series of things that have to happen.
Okay, great. I think I'm done for now.
Okay. Mr. Hutch, Mr. Hudson, Mr. Clark is next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like that explanation you gave. It's the first time I heard a real good one. Is there a chance between now and June the 25th that we can have public meetings and invite the business people, some flyers go out to the citizens to get them on board, to get Redmond to come explain the in and outs, the security, just exactly what this is and get people to buy into it? Is there time between now and the time we have to vote to get our citizens and business on board? Tom?
There's time, but I have yet to hear anybody that's going against it. Everybody seems to be very much for it and ready for this thing to get going. I think it'll be very well received by and frankly, the residences and the businesses are the main reason we're pursuing this thing. That's because of the challenges that, especially the businesses in that central to south central portion of the town are really hampered, as Ms. Branson pointed out. They are at an extreme disadvantage, and hopefully this will help.
If I may be presumptuous, once we have brought Work Order 2 to the council, and I'm assuming that the council approves Work Order 2, at that point, we're going to be able to trumpet that information around in many and numerous ways to the public so that they'll know that it's coming. Information in water bills, information on the web page. We'll talk about it,
Right.
So that it'll be on HCTV, and we'll be able to get the word out while we're gearing up the system.
Right. Hopefully
And
they'll
get a lot of
beat
events.
our door down to be members and participants.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Thank you.
Mr. Hutchison.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Kirkley probably could answer this question better than I could, than you, Joel, but maybe you can. A period of performance for this contract is what? And I heard back in pre-council that said we're going to fully implement this by February of next. I'm sorry, sir, could you come up to the microphone so that the public can hear you?
Thank you, sir. The term of the agreement from a start to stop standpoint would be approximately 8 to 9 months. So we are talking, if we can get this started in the July timeframe, talking February to be completely installed throughout the city. But as was mentioned earlier, there are nodes that are going to be installed here that will be built out in phases. So there will be parts of the city that will come online prior to the final completion. But from a standpoint of a total build out, we're talking about the February timeline.
This is a $6.7 million contract, so it's a pretty significant. I imagine that you have more than just 2 work orders in mind.
Actually, yes, sir, we do. We're talking about 3 work orders at this point. There's going to be the Wi-Fi, there will be automatic meter reading, and some energy, which is both alternative and renewable fuels that Chevron is very interested in installing those types of technologies in the city.
Well, I'm trying to give the public an idea of what they're getting for $6.7 million, sir. So where else are we ranging? Where else are we going besides just those 3 areas?
Well, those are the primary areas we're looking at right now, are the automatic meter reading, some meter replacements potentially in some of the commercial installations, and the Wi-Fi system.
Okay. And
there are some other things from pumping equipment to, those are the 3 main areas. There's probably going to be other work orders as a result of those things that Mr. Kirkley mentioned as well. It's not going to just be the 3, but there's going to be a myriad of things, and it's going to take us a number of years for this thing to play out.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at, Mr. Kirkley. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to say there is things that will extend from that. There will be some immediate impact, and then there will be some long-term impact of this particular contract and this particular thing that we're going to approve tonight.
Absolutely, and that's essentially the work order number 1 is to go in and identify the specific opportunities that we're going to bring to City Council. It could range from pumping stations and variable speed drives to lighting retrofits to HVAC replacements to controls, solar energy. Potentially, it will move into. In some cases, we are looking at fuel cells. I mean, there are a myriad of opportunities that will exist for energy conservation for the city, as well as the Wi-Fi network and AMR systems, as well as water meter replacements.
Yeah, the whole idea, Mr. Mayor and Mr. City Manager, is that we're not just going to get Wi-Fi, even though that's fabulous.
That's
I
the
think,
pretty thing.
Yeah, that's the icing on the cake. But there is a lot of cake in between.
Absolutely, and reality is the Wi-Fi network is the communication link. All of the applications that will apply to the Wi-Fi are even yet to come into the future. I mean, technology is advancing so rapidly that we don't even know today what applications will continue to evolve as we go through this process. So exactly, we're in a building block mode right here, and the Wi-Fi network is a communication tool. It'll be used by the city as they go out and do maintenance on facilities. It will be a very usable system for the city personnel.
Thank you, Mr.
Ms. Branson?
If you'll indulge me again, when Richard said $6.7 million, I saw some expressions in the audience. I mean, that is a lot of money. So I think it's real good, the fiscal impact that was here in our council packet, to let the citizens know that that's what the contract is not to exceed, but it's going to be paid over a 15-year period, and the source of financing will be a combination of new revenues and cost savings. So the impact on the budgets that new revenues will offset any new expenditure required to meet the annual obligations. So I think, when the word $6.7 million came out, which is true, that we needed to throw in the rest of this so it didn't just sound like we were out there spending.
It is self-funding, yes.
Yeah, so I think that's important for the citizens to know.
Yes, it pays for itself.
Just a little detail.
Mr. Sutton.
And one thing, Joel, you were about to add. I think I know what you're about to add. Why don't you go ahead and?
Yeah, I want to go ahead and mention also that as part of this contract, if some of those savings don't materialize, if some of those revenues don't materialize, Chevron is bought into this project. They are guaranteeing to cover the shortfalls that don't materialize as a result of things not occurring that the study said would happen. So they're basically indemnifying us from the revenue shortfalls or the cost savings not materializing.
Thank you, Joel. Mr. Sutton.
Yeah, and another thing about that, I was going to follow up with Councilmember Clark, but first, the $30,000 fee for the feasibility study conducted in September 2006 that we've already is waived by Chevron under this agreement. I think people need to understand that too. So there is just a lot of opportunity here for some great benefit for the Haltom City community, and that's what I wanted to follow up on Councilmember Clark's thing. Councilmember Clark asked, how can we communicate this to citizens? And I would want to ask the staff, which includes the city manager, about whether we can do like several different means of communicating. Number one is if we have questions, why don't we do a Q&A on our website? You know, just if we get some questions that are so that people ask, and why don't we publish that, hey, ask questions about this, and then publish a Q&A. And also, I think it'd be a really good idea to put some information in the water bill that every month that kind of tells a different aspect of what this is. This is huge for Haltom City. This is going to be a really neat thing for Haltom City. And there is a lot of hurrah about this that we need to let people know about, that the staff should be willing to, number one, put out information in the water bills for those that don't have internet service and may want internet service. And number two, a Q&A for those common questions that may be asked so that people can have a reference for, hey, this is the answer to that, so that it doesn't get asked over and over again and things don't propagate in the community that are mistrue or untrue.
He's nodding in the affirmative up here.
I saw that.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
Just one more question. It was mentioned that this is already being done in Burleson. Was there any kind of informational there to bring the citizens on board? Can you discuss a little bit what Burleson, they're out ahead of us? Are they up to 2 or 3, or have they gone on to 4 and 5?
Actually, the city of Burleson has done phase 1, work order number 1. And what they did is they put information out in the water bill to specifically let the citizens know what was available. They also offered some sessions at City Hall where the residents could come and actually play with the system and make sure they got all the information they needed about how they could sign on, what the capabilities of the system were. So it was a strong effort by the community, but primarily it was through the water bill.
Well, I'm hoping with our situation below 28th Street, I thought it was just below 121, but 28th is even larger. I'm hoping our business community just beats the door down trying to get in here to find out how can we get on board, how can we save money, how can we be competitive. That's, like Mr. Sutton said, that's really huge. When you start showing them how to make a buck, that's really huge. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from the Energy Services Master Agreement tonight? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Mr. Sutton.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Let's move it.
I move to approve the Energy Services Master Agreement, agenda item number 9.
Mr. Cabano.
That's for a second, Mayor.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Energy Services Master Agreement. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. And that is unanimous. Thank you again for that presentation. Next on the agenda is public hearings. Item 10, final plat, P 007-07, conduct a public hearing on consideration and interaction regarding the application of Ernest Hedgecoff Consulting Engineers Incorporated on behalf of Mike Blackman for the final plat of lots 1R, 2R, and 3R, Block 1 of the Swafford Edition, being a replat of Lot 1, Block 1, Swafford Edition, in the M2 Industrial District located on the east side of Huddleston Street, containing approximately 1.962 acres of land locally known as 5570 Huddleston Street. Mr. Pliska.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you stated, Mayor, the applicant is final platting this property into 3 lots. Of the 3 lots, Lot 1R will be developed into an office warehouse with outside storage. There is no information at this time on the proposed use or development of the other 2 lots. This final plat was recommended for approval to the City Council by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The decision was at the May 8th P&Z meeting. Therefore, I formally submit the final plat for your approval, and Mr. Hedgecoth is here to answer any questions, Mayor.
Any questions for James or Mr. Hedgecoth? If not, I'll open up the public hearing. Any questions from the audience on this item? Mr. Hedgecoth, you want to come make a statement?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say that Mr. Pliska covered it real well, and Mr. Blackman is anxious to get started. He's going to build him an office building. He's moving his business there, and he has a irrigation company, and they'll be building his offices, and they'll have storage outside. He'll be complying with all the city's requirements. We're going to be installing a fire hydrant on the northwest corner of our property, and everything else meets the city's codes. And appreciate you. Answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Hedgecoth? Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the audience? If not, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion to dispose. Mr. Holcomb.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve final plat number P-007-07 as recorded.
And Mr. Cabano.
That's actually from Councilmember Clark.
Since
okay.
my bulb is burnt out, Mayor, Mr.
Right.
Cabano pushed for me. That's for a second, sir.
Okay, Mr. Clark. Yeah, that's a second by Mr. Clark. It's been moved and seconded to approve final plat P-007-07. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. And that is unanimous. Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is item 11, final plat number P008-07. Conduct a public hearing and under consideration and action on the application of David Gregory on behalf of Progressive Insurance for the final plat of Lot 1, Block 1 of the Progressive Concierge Edition, being 4.475 acres of the Joel Walker Survey, Abstract 1654, located at the northwest corner of Haltom Road and Parish Road, locally known as 5013 through 5035 Parish Road. Mr. Pliska.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The applicant, Progressive Insurance, rezoned the property from the C3 Commercial District to the Planned Development Commercial District for these proposed lots 1 and 2, Block 1 of the Progressive Concierge Edition. This was done on October 9th, 2006. The Planned Development Commercial zoning allowed the applicant to preliminary plats lots 1 and 2, Block 1 of the Progressive Concierge Edition. This preliminary plat was approved by council on September 25th. The plat application for tonight is for Lot 1 only, and again will be for the Auto Claim Center. The final plat was recommended for approval to the City Council by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The decision was at the May 8th, 2007. Of course, the decision was unanimous. Therefore, I formally submit the final plat along with site plan information and landscape information as well. And Mayor, Mr. Gregory is here to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Pliska? Mr. Hutchison.
Yes, James, do we have any drainage problems on the other lot that he's not going to develop at this time?
No, sir. The lot is well drained at this time, and the new facility will not have impact. Everything is going to the road as it should, which would be along Parish Road.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the dais? If not, I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone from the audience would like to speak on this agenda item? If not, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion to dispose. Mr. Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move to approve final plat number P-008-07.
Mr. Hutchison.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That would be for a second.
Been moved and seconded to approve final plat number P-008-07. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. And that is unanimous. Next on the agenda is the Visitor Citizen Forum. This time is set aside for any person having business before the council that is not scheduled on the agenda to speak to the council. All comments must be directed toward the presiding officer rather than an individual council member or staff. Each speaker must limit his or her comments to the subject matter listed on the speaker's request form and must refrain from personal attacks toward any individual. Council cannot discuss or debate any issue brought forth at this time, nor can any formal action be taken, as it is not a posted agenda item in accordance with the Open Meetings Law. And first up this evening is Ms. Yvonne Evans, and the subject is Let's All Work Together, City and Citizens. Ms. Evans?
First, I do apologize. I thought I would get more of these out, but I ran out of ink. There's enough for each one of you up around behind the bench. But Donna, if you don't mind, if you could make a copy for James, and Brenda, Fran, and Chuck, I certainly would appreciate it, and please give them my apologies.
Will you pull your microphone down? Yeah, now we can hear you better, I'll bet.
Now, how about that?
That's better.
Much better, thank you.
Okay. I'm Yvonne Edens, 1421 Oak Knoll Drive, Haltom City, Texas. What is being passed out to you is what I'm going to speak about more in depth. It's lengthy as far as you can see that. But I'm just going to go over a synopsis, and I do appreciate your taking the time to look over it after the meeting is over. And I would sincerely appreciate hearing from each one of you individually your thoughts and opinion on each of the concerns and recommendations that I have brought out. The one thing that I am really concerned about is code compliance in Haltom City. Not that they're not doing it, it's in a different perspective. I went online to the Haltom City website, and I do love the new format of the website. It's easy to use in some respects, but difficult in others. So this time I went to look on how a citizen could submit a code violation in their neighborhood. It was difficult, it was time-consuming, along with who do I contact to send this information to. I found a phone number that was given for one of 3 of the code inspectors. And then I was fortunate to discover that Haltom City, the P&Z or whomever, has divided Haltom City into 3 sectors, 1 sector each for each of the 3 inspectors. And then when I found the phone number, I wanted to know, who does that belong to? Who am I going to talk to? I don't want a machine telling me to push this button and that button. I want to talk to a person. And many of these citizens do not know what type of information to give if they have to leave a message. So they just hang up and don't come back. Let's make it easy. And I've given you some recommendations on how to correct my concerns. Also, another thing, and when these violations are entered, now Wayne, this is where you're going to come in to help them and give them some advice. I subscribe to crimeweb.net, and periodically I receive reports from Haltom City and the surrounding little cities of the crime activities, whether it's auto theft or stolen a purse or whatever it may be, throughout the cities. Why can't the same thing be done for these code violations just by giving the street address and the violation that was committed? That way, when the city citizens submit their violations, they can go to that website and say, oh, good, they've acted on the one that I submitted. Making sure that this is a legal thing for our cities to do. Another thing that is at the top of my concern is please, please, please remove those dumpsters from curbside residential areas. Time and time again, I have seen people drive by day and nighttime, open their trunks and dump stuff in. And usually it's in front of an apartment complex someplace throughout the city or elsewhere within the city. If it is an apartment complex or wherever, they can provide, the owners can provide, ISI can, I don't know who, but individual large covered garbage cans like they did on those quadruplexes down there on Bernice Street. But there is a dumpster right now, and you can go by after you leave here, and it's been out there over a week now. It was full. They emptied the dumpster, yes, but also beside that, and it's been laying out there, multiple mattresses, rolled up carpet and whatever, and it's been laying out there. All right, another thing that involves, I'm concerned about the city ordinance, also involves the rental ordinance. And I know that it's not on the schedule right now, but I know that it's upcoming. And the one thing that's been spoken to me about is that the tenants should be made advised of the violation. Bluntly, they wanted the tenant to be the one to get the notice, but the property owner is the one that is legally responsible for it. But then possibly the city can let the tenant have a copy of the letter too. Also, I feel like within the ordinance, the landlord must furnish the tenant as they make application or sign their application. They must provide them with a code compliance handbook or booklet that the city puts out. I know they get one when they sign up for their water bill, but I also know that that booklet is updated periodically, and it is up to the landlord to make sure he keeps his tenants up to date. And personally, I feel like a landlord should make at least 2 drive-bys a month on all of his property to make sure that it is being kept as it should. If it's not, and the landlord does get a notice, the landlord notices a compliance that's in violation, then after a certain period he warns them to clean it up and they haven't, it's up to the landlord and it's his responsibility to report it, him or herself, to the city. The challenge is, especially on these code inspectors that go throughout our city, they're not praised enough. It's not an 8 to 5 driving job throughout the city. They have to find these violations. They have to make their reports. They have to look up the owner's property number. They have to send out the letters. And it's they're not given enough praise. And with the citizens knowing that it's been handled and they can see and find out how to do it, all these recommendations are in there for you. The fourth thing that I would like to see happen, and all of this has to do with bringing our city and making it more beautiful and nice to live in, is for the council to present a challenge and encourage the beautification board to devise some way to designate a yard of the month in each of the police sectors. That makes more sectors than what the code compliance part has done. And maybe the beautification board for the first 1 or maybe 2 months can divide it up themselves and select a yard. But put the notices out to where eventually it would be nice for the citizens to start nominating places in their neighborhood, and then the board can decide which one. And again, I appreciate your listening to me. I got to go home and take some more Tylenol. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Ms. Edens. Appreciate it. Wayne, do you have any response there? I think she asked you a question.
Well, she made a very good point that we need to look at the legal issues involved in that. My initial reaction is it won't be a problem doing that, but I'll work with Tom on doing it the right way.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all the written notices we have. If there's anyone else that would like to speak, you have a 3-minute time frame. Anybody else wants to speak in the Visitors Citizen Forum? Mr. Cooper, please come up and introduce yourself.
Don Cooper, I live at 1516 Oaknell Drive. I didn't plan to speak, but being here tonight, and two things are on my mind. One is it being the week for the Public Works. I've spoken with Mr. Fain before, but I just want to publicly say it. In the last 4 years or so that he took over, I've seen a tremendous difference in our Public Works Department. So I think it'd be appropriate time during this week to, I personally, as a citizen, commend him and his department for the really excellent work that I've seen that's improved in the last 4 years. In fact, wasn't too long, about a year or so ago, I told my wife, someone is new in the last 3 or 4 years that's taken over Public Works, because there's been such a dynamic change in the quality and the workmanship of what's going on. So I want to publicly commend Mr. Fain for that. The other thing really is I just wanted to congratulate those of you that did win the City Council. I commend you all. I want to be a part of Haltom City. It's unfortunate that sometimes when we're running races, we're considered to be opponents. We're not opponents. We're all working together for the same cause. And it really was a joy and a pleasure to be a candidate. I made so many new friends. I got out in the community and got to know people I think I would have never gotten to know. And I don't have any regrets whatsoever for having run. In fact, I don't even really have a regret that Mr. Sutton beat me, because I've gotten to know Mr. Sutton, and I appreciate him very much. So I want to congratulate each one of you that did win, and I look forward to working together with all you guys to make Haltom City a better place.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. You're very gracious. Anybody else want to speak at the Visitor Citizen Forum? Seeing none, I close this section of the meeting and move on to the next item, item 12, resignation of board members. I know we have some. Ms. Branson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have resignations for Sonia Shannon from the Zoning Board of Adjustment and Ike Cowell from Parks and Rec.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Please register your vote. And that is approved unanimously. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask the City Council to approve the resignation of 2 of our council members as liaison to specific commissions, and also a contact person. And I'd like to read a short little paragraph to explain why this is happening to the citizens. I'm reading from the City of Haltom City Boards and Commission Handbook. It states, Council liaison will be assigned by the City Planning and Zoning Commission and Zoning Board of Adjustment by the City Council at large. City Council members shall not serve more than 2 consecutive years as a liaison on either the City's Planning and Zoning Commission or Zoning Board of Adjustments. However, City Council liaisons shall be permitted to serve until a replacement liaison has been appointed. Based upon that, I'm asking that the Council approve Mr. Holcomb's resignation from the Planning and Zoning, Ms. Diane Branson for resignation from Zoning Boards of Adjustment, and Mr. Richard Hutchison as the contact person from the library.
Okay, you have that recommendation. Any discussion? Please register.
Go ahead.
We're not finished. Okay, any further discussion? Please register your vote. Those resignations are unanimously approved. Mr. Clark, you're recognized again.
Are we through with the resignation from all members? I'd like to move to the appointment and reappointment of board members at this time. For the Planning and Zoning, I'd like to appoint myself, Dale Clark, as liaison. For the Zoning Board of Adjustment, I'd like to appoint Richard Hutchinson. And for the library contact person, I'd like to appoint Diane Branson for those positions.
Any discussion on that? Please register your votes. And those appointments are approved. Any other appointments or reappointments? Mr. Sutton.
Okay. I have a place one, Parks and Recreation. I have a reappointment, Rochelle Rhodes. I'd like to reappoint her to the Parks and Recreation. She's handed in her application, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate all she's done in the last 2 years, and I'd like to see her continue to work with Parks and Rec, and especially with our new Parks and Rec director.
All right. Any discussion? Please register your vote. That appointment is approved. Mr. Hutchison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to appoint to the Fire Services Board, place 5, of Miss Valerie Deering at 5213 Palmer. She would like to serve. She's served as a Crime Watch Captain Association. She's a Friends of the Library and a board member with the library in the past. Miss Valerie Deering.
In discussion? Please register your vote. That appointment is approved. Ms. Branson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have reappointments. Beautification Board, William Savage. Crime Control and Prevention District, Melinda Smith. Fire Services Board, Sue Austin. Library Board, Galen Kuhn. Planning and Zoning, Mike Britt. And Sexually Oriented Board of Appeals, Gay Klein.
Any discussion? Please register your vote. Those appointments are approved. Mr. Holcomb.
Thank you, Mayor. I have reappointments and also a first appointment. Mark Wilson for place 2 on the Fire Services Board would like to be reappointed. Travis Royale on place 2 of the Library Board, and I know that I'm going to mispronounce this name, so forgive me in advance. I think it's Rochelle Rhodes. Reappoint place 2 on.
That's the one I just appointed to Parks.
You can't have her. Jim already
Supposed to
stole
be
her.
place 2.
She's place 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
My mistake.
That's.
All right. Well, scratch that then.
Okay. Just the
the first 2 reappointments.
Okay.
And do I need to do a appointment separate from a reappointment, or all the same? Okay. And last but not least, Mike Logan has expressed great interest in being appointed to our Planning and Zoning Commission. He's the president of one of the local homeowners associations up on the north end of town. I had the pleasure of speaking with him earlier this week, and he seems to be very excited. So I look forward to his input and volunteer time.
All right. You've heard those nominations. Any discussion? Please register your vote. And that is unanimous. Any other appointments or reappointments? Then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the excused absence of council members. And Ms. Reese, I believe you had a statement to make.
Yes, sir. At the last council meeting, I had emailed Tom early in the day and told him I had just other things going on. And I'm typically not one to indulge my private life, but since we tabled my motion, I'm going to indulge everyone. At that particular time, I had found out I think it was Wednesday before, that I had the onset of pneumonia. And I've got a mother that was diagnosed with cancer back on December 2nd, and I spend a lot of time with her, taking her to chemotherapy and, just doing. And my 82-year-old grandmother's here in town, so I'm taking care of her too, plus a grandbaby, plus my kids. My daughter's graduating. And, guys, I'm sorry. I can short load. I short circuit bad, and when I do, I crumble hard. And my doctors keep saying, Kim, stop and take care of yourself. And the one thing Chris and his wife tell me a lot is breathe. Just breathe. And I don't know how to do that, and I'm trying to learn. And so I know how to take medicine that keeps me all nice and cool when I'm up here, and it's great. I don't share either. But that is my reason why I'm not here. And if I'm not here, Tom will be informed a little more, that if it's personal, I'm taking care of Mom. And if it's bad, I can promise Chris will be the first one to be able to belt out whatever's going on. So I just appreciate your patience. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. We have a motion to dispose. Mr. Sutton.
Yeah, I'd like to move to approve the absence of Councilmember Reese from the last one,
Ms.
from the
Branson?
last meeting.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second to show Ms. Reese's absence as excused. Any further discussion? Please register your vote. And that is unanimous with one abstention. That concludes the normal public business until we need to move into executive session now, subject to under section 551-071, -072, and -074. We will meet in executive session at 8:55. 8:55. That's about 7 minutes from now. We are now back in regular session after the executive meeting, and we have no action to take. There is a quorum here. This meeting is adjourned.